Guys who are on hold, we're about to start in a second.
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the broadcast. Doing something different today. It's just going to be me and your calls. You know, believe it or not, a lot of people have requested that I do the show alone. I'm just kidding, Joe. It's a joke. Joe can't make it today. Apparently, it is Joe's birthday weekend. And on Friday, before his birthday, he doesn't work, which I find amazing. But I also see it as an opportunity to kind of get back in the saddle, do the program myself, take calls. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. If you're new to the broadcast, if you don't know who I am, why I'm here, I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. Excuse me. And I also happen to be the founder of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, been in this industry and a hair loss sufferer. Well, I've been a hair loss sufferer for about, let's see, Jesus, how old am I? I'm 57. 36 years? Is that right? For 36 years. And I have been in this field since about 1998. Started to do my initial research many, many years prior to being published by Salmon & Schuster and getting on the radio. And what I realized early on, and that's why I do this broadcast, is that, and sadly things haven't changed too much. They've actually gotten worse. But even back in the day, we're talking the late 80s, when Brooklyn was a prairie, old New Yorkers would get that joke. Before finasteride, Propecia, before Minoxidil was approved, there was absolutely fucking nothing to treat your hair loss. Hair transplant surgery was literally in the dark ages. If I wanted to help myself, which I really couldn't until I found a enterprising physician who was compounding Minoxidil with other, basically it was alcohol at the time, and propylene glycol. And there were a couple of guys doing that, but there was nothing out there for any of us. And I spent thousands of dollars back in the day, a little over $10,000 on every lotion, potion. I flew to a different country to get electrostatic therapy, not laser therapy, on my scalp. I hung upside down, put cayenne pepper on my hair, bought the Helsinki formula and everything, all the other bullshit that was being sold at the time. I was told by every hair transplant surgeon in the free world, the grand poobahs, the grandfathers, the inventors or reinventors of this surgery, that they were willing to perform surgery on me. The hair club was willing to shave my hair off, and I had a lot to give me a fucking wig, which they wouldn't tell me about, until I basically had to grind this poor sales lady down and finally get an answer to my questions. What the fuck is this so-called strand-by-strand process? Fast forward 25 years, and the only thing that's really changed, yes, we have medications that work, thank goodness. We have state-of-the-art hair transplant surgery that only a relatively small handful of physicians are performing worldwide. We have PRP. We have some interesting things in irons in the fire as far as regenerative medicine. We have a lot of bullshit artists out there who are claiming that they are injecting stem cells and all kinds of shit into your scalp that they say without much study, say is going to work. We do know that exosomes have the potential of working, and I've seen them work. But you don't know exactly what you're getting. The bottom line is, 25 years later, fast forward to 2022, and the industry is more dangerous than it's ever been. Social media, the bastardization of follicular unit extraction has put you all in a much worse position. And frankly, that's the only reason I don't retire. That's why I put on this camera, almost every week. And that's why I do this broadcast, and that's why, I have to give Joe Tillman credit because he actually pushed me to continue to do this. But we really haven't focused on getting the broadcast out to a much broader base. And I talk about this all the time. We are doing some stuff. We're going to be working with Maxim this year. We are going to be doing, actually, and people have been asking me about this. I uploaded a podcast to iTunes and Spotify and all those places yesterday. We're going to be doing that on a regular basis. But we are going to be getting a lot more mainstream notoriety for the broadcast because I just can't. Basically, it's unfinished business for me to make that happen. Too many people are continuing to get fucked up, no matter what groundwork we laid over the last 25 years, no matter what I've tried to do, no matter how many physicians I've worked with. Even the fucking physicians, let's face it, it's a dog-eat-dog industry. It's every gorilla for himself. I try to bring these guys together, and we do it through the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons and, of course, the American Hair Loss Association. But in the end, these guys really don't want to work together. Everyone looks at each other as fucking competition. And my hope in 2023 is that we're going to change that. Now, we have a full board of calls. I'm going to take some calls. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Again, this is a call-in show. It's really the only program that I know that is streaming, solely streaming, that gets a lot of phone calls. And I have to thank you guys for making that possible. Otherwise, I wouldn't turn on my camera. Phone number 888-659-3727. Let's take our first call. I almost spit on the mic. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Dave Spandy. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. How are you today?
Dave, I'm okay. How are you, man? So now the entire free world knows your last name.
Hey, that's awesome. Well, I'm new to the show, and I just found out about it. I had a hair transplant by a guy by the name of Scott Alexander.
Who?
And
I'm just kidding. I love Scott. I've known Scott for a very long time.
That's awesome. He's a great guy. I enjoyed him quite a bit. Anyways, I got to tell you, I looked at your website. I've been listening to some of your back podcasts. I absolutely agree. I think you're spot on. I like how you just cut through a lot of the nonsense that's going on out there. And there really is limited options. And we need to weed out these guys that are giving people false hope and really focus on what works.
That's hard. It's hard, man. Listen, I've been doing this for a very long time. And, it's because it's an evergreen business, because there's so many people who are waking up for the very first time realizing that they're losing their hair. It's easy for anyone who has a little bit of business savvy, who, especially now that there's such a low barrier to entry to get into hair transplant surgery, and because of access to so many more people so inexpensively through social media, and people are just selling all kinds of, snake oils, lotions, potions, all kinds of bullshit. I see these influencers who are now, and actually celebrities who are connecting themselves to companies, and I'm just like, I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it. I was totally, this is a guy that I respect tremendously. So I'm gonna state this clearly. I don't know if these products actually do anything for anybody. I've done some research into this particular brand, and I don't see it, but I could be wrong. And I do have a lot of faith in this one particular celebrity endorser of this product on many levels. But I have to tell you, when I saw Anthony Robbins endorsing a hair loss company, a product that, to my knowledge, isn't selling anything that, at least in the hair loss, in the scientific community, anyone could point to saying that, this is why or how this product or these products can work. I was floored. This is a recent phenomenon. I just found out about this a few weeks ago. I saw his face on an ad in my Facebook feed, and I was like, maybe the world is coming to an end.
Well, I saw this ad for a hair loss shampoo. It said it has carbonic acid in it. And, this was nationally televised, and they went on and on about how it takes out sebum plugs and all this nonsense.
Sebum, that is the oldest trick in the book, man.
Yeah, and how do they get away with that? How do you make those claims on national TV without some sort of accountability? It's just a lie.
Well, it's funny. Back in the late 90s, the FTC did crack down on these companies. And I was contacted by the National Advertising Division, the Better Business Bureau, that helped them kind of essentially expose a company at the time. The company was called Avicor, and provide them with all the information that I knew about the product and about some of the claims that are being made. And we worked together as a team, and essentially this company, at least at that time, they had to completely change direction. They had to express clearly on their labeling that they were using minoxidil in their packaging. I mean, in their product. And we were able to make some good inroads as far as truth in advertising. So a lot of other companies kind of shrunk away for a while because they were afraid of dealing with all that shit. In the last, I'd say, 7 or 8 years, things have kind of gotten back to the way that they were in the late 80s and early 90s. So, it's the way of the world, man. I mean, the Federal Trade Commission probably doesn't have the manpower or the time and they probably don't think that, ripping off the hair loss public is top priority. So a lot of guys and a lot of companies are getting away with a lot of bullshit.
I agree. I just shake my head. And, but, I wanted to say my experience is very similar to yours. So I'm 53, and I went through the whole process, the Rogaine, the whole bit.
If I start to slur my words, just, tell me that I'm speaking too slowly because I'm drinking. Go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, no problem. Good to relax while you're working. Mm-hmm. I agree with you there. So I went through that same process as you, and then finally it just came down to, the only real proven solution that I could even possibly fathom was hair transplantation. And so I reached out. I had my first transplant in 2016 with a guy out of Beverly Hills. His name was Norton Abramson, and he came to Minneapolis, and this was 2016.
Okay. I actually know Dr. Abramson, and we've never worked together, but I don't know what your experience was, but in general, he was kind of a guy that was not extremely well known, worked with a lot of celebrities, and he had relatively decent results. So how was your first surgery?
It was good. He did 1,900 grafts, and we didn't shoot for the moon. It was just to get the process moving. I thought that his work was excellent. From every metric, the angle, the position, the density.
That's great.
He seemed like an artisan. Like he knew what he was doing. And I knew that I was going to have to go back for round 2, but I just wanted to kick things off, And so I was very happy. So then I moved to Phoenix. I got a good job, and I started looking around. And this is the part where I can say maybe this will help some of the listeners is, you get what you pay for. And when I did my research, I came up with Scott Alexander. He was not the least expensive. He was probably maybe middle to high end, but I can tell you what, it was worth every penny. I felt like his workmanship was fantastic. I did a whole lot of talking with him ahead of time just to kind of, get a feel for what his approach was. And I'm also a physician, and so, I dug into this really deep.
What do you do?
I figured out. So I'm an eye doctor, and so it has nothing to do with hair, which is to say, that's not my specialty. But,
so you're an ophthalmologist.
Optometrist.
Optometrist.
And so, yep. So I'm in suburban Phoenix, and I just dug into it deep and figured out that, hey, this guy is using the latest techniques. He's using things that are aesthetically that are excellent. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go for this. And you're going to think this is interesting. My wife told me not to do it. She said, I like you. You're just fine. You don't need to do it. And I said, look, I just want to do this. She's like, okay.
Well, first of all, that's her job. And I'm glad that she was kind enough to tell you that she liked the way you looked either way and didn't make a difference. And yeah, I mean, she's not wrong as far as the possibility of, there's a real risk with any surgery.
Mm-hmm.
What bothers me is when I get calls from the wives who are like, you know what, I didn't sign up for this. What can we do for my husband? And I'm thinking, you know what, go fuck yourself. I didn't sign up for this.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, why would you say that? But the deal is so this was February of this year. And right after surgery, you know how it is. It doesn't look good at all. And so she says to me, I don't know if it was worth it. And I said, well, let's just give it some time. Well, anyway, so now it all grew back. And now she said to me 2 weeks ago, she said, I think it was totally worth it.
Well, let me ask you a question. But this is your second surgery. So the first surgery was okay, and you needed more hair. Mm-hmm. So your wife already knew that you had that surgery. So her concern was, okay, you already had this done. You don't need any more.
Right. And
did you have a second strip, or did you have FUE?
I did. Okay. Yeah. I looked into it from all my research, it just made more sense for me to use a strip twice.
100%. And I don't mean to cut you off, but it's important that young listeners understand this, and those who have, leveraged FUE to, or converted their practices and leveraged FUE to essentially move forward or get ahead of some of their colleagues, if that makes sense. I mean, I really think any physician out there that just offers FUE is doing the patient a tremendous disservice. I see these young guys who are having large sessions of FUE. They're getting grafts that are moved from all over the back of and the sides of their scalp. And there's a large percentage of those grafts that will not last more than maybe a decade if they're lucky. So having strip surgery, you're able to get 100% of that sweet spot, mostly DHT-resistant hairs that, even though in time they may start to miniaturize, because that can happen, it's a lot less likely than going above, below, and to the side of the so-called, or the relative safe area. And if you already had one strip scar and you had, good laxicity, you can just get a lot of grafts with a good strip. Yeah. So it was a good move.
Here's the thing, couple things. Number one, he was able to take out the previous scar, and when he put it back together, it's even tighter than it was before. So that was an advantage. And the second thing is, I thought for 100%, hey, I'm going to do FUE. That is absolutely, and this was before I did a lot of research. And once I really dug into it, I said, wait a second. This is not a good thing. Okay, you're going to ruin every possible opportunity for a future transplant because you just ruined your entire donor area with all these punch holes. And I thought, man, I need to do a strip a second time. And for all those guys that are thinking, I really need to do FUE, well, you got to think real long term here. You're not going to be able to do it again if you do that. And so that was important to me, is that I left it intact. Plus, I think it looks better.
Well, listen, I'm glad you had a good experience. I don't think that Dr. Alexander gets the press that he should. He's kind of like a little-known gem, and he's been with the IHS for quite a long time. He started to do this the correct way. He didn't get into hair transplant surgery 25 years ago and, butcher thousands of guys, and that, before he changed the infrastructure of his practice to do more state-of-the-art work. He learned how to do it the right way. He started with pure follicular unit transplantation using the lateral slit technique. He trained with Dr. Alan Feller and maybe some other guys, during a time when hair transplant surgery was finally coming into its own, where a large percentage of the results were actually excellent compared to what they are now, because the industry has changed so much. And he's really stuck to his guns and kind of moved forward and evolved in a positive way with the industry. When he could have made some moves like a lot of some other guys that I know and essentially, pandered to the consumer and to the patient. So he's a good guy, and he does a lot of good work. And listen, man, I really appreciate your call. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I was just going to say, I thought Dr. Alexander, I asked him, I said, so why do you do the lateral slit technique? Aside from that it looks better. He said, well, and I said, well, why doesn't everybody do it? And he said, well, probably because they're lazy. It takes more time to do it right. And that said everything to me. This guy's taken additional time to do the correct technique, and it worked fabulous, But yeah, that's all I wanted to say is get what you pay for and choose a very skilled surgeon.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate your call. Everyone needs to hear a positive story. If you go on my Instagram at Spencer Kobren, you're going to see that I tell the truth about the industry, and I want to get the reality. I want people to understand the entire scope and all the possible pitfalls of this surgery. And sometimes it could sound a little negative. I have been accused of, or there's some trolls out there and people in the industry who are like, well, we don't like what Kobren does because we just like to talk about the positives of this industry. Well, the truth is, I'm not here to sell surgery. I want people to know that this is real surgery, and if you don't do your due diligence, you're probably going to get fucked up. So I'm glad that you did your due diligence, man, and I appreciate the call.
I appreciate your show, and I appreciate the information. So,
all right, man.
Yeah, keep it up.
I'll keep us updated. Take care.
All right,
okay.
Will do. You
Bye-bye.
Too. Bye.
Guys, we have phone lines open, 888-659-3727. It's me and my lonesome doing it old school, like the old program. And while we miss Joe, certainly miss Joe, for several reasons. We all love Joe. And also, I'm a guy who's been able to avoid hair transplant surgery for the last 40 years. I'm a guy who started early with medication. I'm a big believer in early intervention. I was a guy who, even though I was advised by a lot of physicians not to try this drug, I tried Proscar before it was approved by the FDA for the indication of hair loss as Propecia. And I say this all the time. I don't know what the long-term possible adverse effects are going to be of me being on this drug for over 30 years. But I can tell you this. I saved a good amount of hair over the years. I started to lose my hair at a relatively early age. I noticed it around 21 or 22, between almost 22. And the reason I'm behind this mic for almost 25 years is because I took that chance. I did my research. I realized the industry was really fucked up, and I decided to tell my story. And my hope is that the people who stumble onto this broadcast, the people that find Joe Tillman's YouTube channel, the hair transplant channel, I think that's what it's called now, or find the Bald Truth, I hope they really take this advice and the wisdom that both Joe and I bring to the table. We're not only hair loss sufferers, just like Cy Sperling says, he's not only a what is it? What was it? I'm not only a hair loss sufferer, I'm also a client. I forgot what he says. I'm getting old. Or I'm also the president, whatever. But the reality is, we've been in the trenches for a very long time. I understand everything there is to know about this industry. I know where all the bodies are buried, and you guys would not believe how fucked up it really is behind the scenes. Most of the young guys, or anyone who's buying a product or service in this industry, or hoping and putting their trust in a clinic's hands, putting their lives and their futures and their happiness in the hands of, honestly, some really ruthless motherfuckers. My hope is at the very least you take the information that we provide you through this broadcast and try to digest it and understand that there's nothing in it for us. I have no skin in the game as far as what you guys decide to do or not to do. I make the same amount no matter what I do, whether I turn this mic on or not. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Brooklyn.
Morty, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Listen, I'm going to have to make you my sidekick today since Joe bailed on us.
Oh, wow. That's great, Spence. I appreciate that. That's pretty awesome. By the way, I hope you had a Marchatina Tova and an easy fast if you did fast.
Thank you.
On Wednesday.
I fast every day, my man.
Oh, yeah. To the intermittent fasting. That's cool.
Yeah. So what's happening? What's new?
Well, let's see. My hair is on my head.
Besides the fact that we were surprised last week by a guy who called in and said that he contacted Dr. Cole's office to do a consultation, and guess who contacts him? Morty.
Yes. Yes, that's true. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm calling in addition to just being the usual call-in during the week. Thank you for reminding me about that. So yeah, I mean, I'm a patient of Dr. Cole's and a good friend. And what Dr. Cole does with his favorite patients is if he has a prospective patient who is a little bit concerned about their hair loss or about a procedure, he'll have them call me to talk to them about my experience, what it was like to get a hair transplant, what was involved, what the concerns would be, those types of things, just to kind of give these people experience. And the person who called in is actually in the chat right now. His name is Hampton, and he and I have been talking back and forth for months about his case, and I'm really glad that he called in last week. So, yeah. I also want to do just one other thing, which is really important to me, and that is that the call, there was one of the calls, the first call from last week when I was listening, and there was somebody who was talking about me being a shill for Dr. Cole or being somehow his cheerleader, and I want to make sure that people who are listening understand. Dr. Cole was my choice, but it doesn't necessarily mean he should be your choice. I think that, I went through a process whereby I interviewed about 5 or 6 doctors over a span of about 2 years, and I found the doctor that I liked the most and trusted the most, and that person became my doctor. But all of you have to go through the same process yourself, and you may come to a different conclusion, and that's fine, because there are a lot of good doctors out there just as much as that there are a lot of bad doctors out there, and there are a lot of people out there, a lot of doctors who have different approaches toward dealing with hair loss than Dr. Cole does. And that doesn't mean that any of those approaches are wrong. It just means that they're different. And like the previous caller, certain approaches make sense for certain patients.
Well, Morty, I'm glad you explained that. And obviously, if you listened to the broadcast last week, I mean, we were pretty defensive of our buddy Morty. But
thank you.
The one thing that I don't think most people understand is all of you motherfuckers got into this industry because you had a hair transplant, and and you were either considered to be a good guy or a good spokesperson. The doctor thought that maybe you could help them with the practice. I mean, look at Joe Tillman. How do you think Joe got involved?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there's nothing wrong with it. But I understand the caller's point. In his mind, all he heard was he saw Dr. Anderson on the air. He heard you calling and talking about Dr. Cole. They're in the same area. Where I don't believe that Anderson and Cole are competitors, in quotes. I would like to believe that they're both members of the IHRS, and I try to tell these guys this all the time, and you're not competitors. But I got to tell you, I love John Cole. I've been called the Cole Whisperer, but, he doesn't always play well with others, and sometimes I think that, he does. He gets, it kind of goes back and forth. Sometimes I think he does think people are his competition. Sometimes I think he doesn't give a shit about the competition, which I don't think he should, because to me, he's got no competition. He's his own, entity in this field. He has brought so much to the table.
I agree 100%. Again, it's a different. He's a different person. He has a different approach. I mean, I actually reached out to Dr. Anderson, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Dr. Anderson. I actually reached out to him on social media after the call to kind of I had a nice chat with him. And I mean, Dr. Anderson's got a lot going on that's really positive. He's got his own hair transplant university where he's teaching doctors how to do hair transplants the right way. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of years of experience doing hair transplants, and he basically has a different approach, I would say, than Cole does.
But here's the thing, I'm going to cut you off, Marty. No one gives Anderson the credit of actually doing the first large FUE session. The session that actually was the one that allowed and that gave Bill Rassman and Bob Bernstein the fodder, the data to be able to write the first paper for follicular unit extraction. He performed that surgery. Rassman's like, and this is the story that I've heard. Rassman was like, "Hey, you get 1,500 grafts or whatever the number was out of this guy. I'll give you a trip to Palm Springs." Anderson was a young doctor. He's like, "All right, I'll do it." It took him like 18 hours or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't these old timers who were doing the first surgeries. At least back then, it was him. And also, Alan Bauman gets zero credit, which I don't understand that. If you actually look at the books, and there's only a few people that take all the credit, when in fact, the true history of FUE, and you've heard about it on this program, is a lot different than even what some of the let's just say the pioneers in the industry are telling people, probably including you, Morty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, from what little I know is that FUE's been around for a while. It started out in Japan. I believe the whole idea of using punches. I know that Dr. Cole always tells a story about Ray Woods and how he tried to get Ray Woods to teach him, but Ray was very secretive about his approach and how. But
how do you think? Cole, and how do you think that all came about? Ray Woods contacted us because none of the doctors were listening to this poor guy.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Limmer, the ISHRS, nobody. He contacted me. I was here in Los Angeles. I was put up at the where was it? It was the Sheraton in Universal City, and I was visiting the radio station who was courting me for the show. They wanted to license the broadcast, and all of a sudden, old school phone rings, hotel phone. It's some guy with a fucking Australian accent. I'm like, how the fuck did you get my number? He tracked me down. He tracked down my father, and then got my number. And then he wanted to show me this technique. He told me the whole story. No one wanted to listen to him. And when I first brought this concept to Rassman, Bernstein, Cole, everybody, they were all like, it can't be done. And it took consumer demand. It took the procedure being talked about on a message forum, which was Hair Loss Help at the time, for these doctors to take any fucking interest and for me to keep pushing it before they took any interest. So the stories that are being told, honestly, for the most part, are bullshit. There was a Canadian doctor who contacted me and he said, "Hey, look, I think I like to try to do this. Do you know what Woods is doing?" I said, "I think I do." I walked him through it. Within a month, this guy's performing test surgeries on people and talking about it, and these patients are coming on this forum, Hair Loss Help. And then these doctors started to take notice. Bill Rassman was like, "This can't be done. We've tried it." And then 6 months later, after the consumer demand, he wrote the first paper. So that's the reality and that's the history. So I always tell people, especially when they're getting involved in the industry or new in the industry, take everything with a grain of salt as far as the reality of what this field is about. That includes you, Morty.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm always listening to you, Spencer, because you are the OG from the consumer perspective for this surgery. And I don't even want to think about where I would be if I hadn't have found your program going on now probably about 3 or 4 years, because there's a lot of danger out there, and there's a lot of heavy-duty marketing driving people in exactly the wrong direction.
Well, Morty, this is what I'm going to do. If you have some time, because I always love talking to you, and I know that other people probably want to talk to you as well, I'm going to see if I could keep you on hold and pot it up. I forgot how to do this, and take another call. So let me see if I can make this happen. Hold on for a second.
All righty, let's try it.
I forgot how to do this. It's been so long. Let's see. right, you're on hold now. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, caller, you're on the air. Oh, shit. I just spilled my wine. Hey, caller, you're on the air. What's up?
Hey, how are you, Spencer? Can you hear me okay?
I can. I just spilled my wine all over the place on my board here. What's happening?
Oh, my. Hi, Spencer. My name is Al. I live here in the Midwest. I just want to say I appreciate what you're doing. I started listening to you earlier this year. I am a physician, a family practice physician, and
welcome.
I'm looking to get into hair restoration surgery. I attended a conference about 2 or 3 years ago. Well, it was more than that, but I just wanted your point of view as far as what would be your recommendation for somebody starting out. I see there's all these workshops throughout the country through ISHRS. I have inquired about these fellowships, but I haven't had any success.
Well, here's the thing. You're not going to have a lot of success as far as getting involved and then getting a pre-ternship or a fellowship. The ISHRS, in my view, they're offering. I think this year they're starting to promote pre-ternships or fellowships. Honestly, if you're anywhere in the area of one of these ISHRS doctors, they are not going to teach you shit. They don't want the competition. And if you go to one of these workshops, I have a story. I'm hoping that my board doesn't explode here. I'm going to have to clean this up in a second. I heard a story of a guy. He was in Texas. He went to a well-known workshop that is promoted and sanctioned, in quotes, by the ISHRS. And he said he didn't get much from the workshop, but he asked the doctor who was running the workshop if he could, come in and work for free and do a pre-ternship. And the doctor said to him, and this is a guy that runs a workshop, said, you know what, you're now my competition, so I can't have you come in and learn. He wouldn't train a guy. So you know what this guy ended up having to do? He had to go on YouTube and learn how to do hair transplants. And he performed surgery after watching it on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So I can tell you this, in my view, and the people in the ISHRS are not going to like this, I believe that they started off trying to do something good. It has devolved into something that is really not about, in the end, really educating physicians in the way in which they should be educated about this field. And it is not a consumer-centric organization by any means. And when you hear somebody say, look for an ISHRS member or look for an ISHRS fellow, I would say they are giving you really bad advice. Now, you want to get into the field. My advice would be, we have a Global Hair Loss Summit, December 17th and 18th. It is a live-streamed summit online, so you don't have to go anywhere. Okay. It's inexpensive. Okay. And, if you want to contact me directly, you can contact me. Actually, what I would do is I would contact info@iahrs.org, International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, and maybe we can connect you with somebody who'd be willing to train you. What part of the country are you in?
Chicago.
Okay. I mean, would you be willing to? I'm sure you'd be willing to travel.
Yes.
Okay.
No. Yes.
Well, maybe the guy called in who went to Scott Alexander. I know Scott's always open to providing people with, some training. I don't know if you'd be able to work in his office or not, but I mean, we could probably help you out.
Okay. I actually inquired about one fellowship, and as a physician, when we go to residency, we get paid. It's a small stipend. Fellowship, you get paid a small stipend. But then I found out there's one fellowship which is going to remain, which I'm not going to name, is basically they're telling me you got to pay $22,000 for the year. Is that common? Is that normal? I was kind of caught off guard.
This is sadly not treated like real medicine. You have some of the biggest. It's a very entrepreneurial field, and I have to tell you that I've always talked about this openly. It's always pissed me off. I understand, people are like, well, we have to. we're spending our time to do this, and we're going to give them the opportunity to make money, and this is supposed to be medicine. So yes, is it common? It is. And would I do it? No, I wouldn't do it. I would. I would definitely go. I would sign up for GHLS for sure. We can see if we can hook you up with somebody that would be willing to help you. And you just have to be willing to work for free, probably. But you're not going to get any stipends, I'll tell you that.
Okay. All right. No, I definitely appreciate Global Hair Loss Summit, and it's going to be in December.
Yeah. I'll go to Global Hair Loss Summit. Let me see what the updated website is. Hold on. I think it's globalhairloss2022.org.
Excellent. Globalhairloss2022.org.
Yeah.
Very well. Spencer, I really appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing, and hope to talk to you and meet you someday in person soon.
All right, Doc. Listen, good luck, and we'll help you any way we can.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Morty, I was unable to figure that out, and I spilled shit all over my board here, and I'm just waiting for it to explode. and the problem is I can't defer to somebody else. I can't say, hey, hold on, let me get a towel.
Well, I mean, you could leave me. You can leave me riff for a little bit.
Okay, so you talk
if you want.
Riff for 2 seconds.
You got it. So I guess for those people who aren't sure who I am, I can tell you a little bit about myself. I've been calling into the Bald Truth now probably for over 3 years. I was very lucky to have found the Bald Truth after a very short period of time, just looking online to get information about hair transplants. I found Joe and Spencer online, and I've been a regular listener. They basically gave me the first piece of good advice, which is don't get a hair transplant. And if those people who aren't sure what that means, you can go to a hair transplant mentor website, which is Joe Tillman's website, and you can watch his first video, and it talks about don't get a hair transplant. And it basically goes over the risks associated with getting one and the approach that you should take if you want to deal with your hair loss. And by definition, the first thing you should do is not a transplant. The first thing that you need to do is find a good hair restoration doctor who is going to be honest with you about not getting a hair transplant initially and exploring other options, specifically the option of taking what are called 5-alpha reductase inhibitors like finasteride and or dutasteride and minoxidil to try to address your hair loss using medical therapy first, and then give those medical therapies a good 9 to 12 months to work to see if you can actually get some benefit from them. And then and only then you'll know, A, how much hair you can recover, and B, if that's sufficient for your aesthetics. And after that, and again, this is also a test for you as a patient to make sure that you can be consistent about a hair loss regimen. Only after that should you even remotely consider hair loss surgery. Further, you should also take that year to educate yourself about exactly what the hair loss surgery entails, and also to basically find a good doctor. And a good place to do that is the IAHRS, which is the International Association of Hair Transplant Surgeons. Go to their website and look for a hair transplant.
Dude, you almost had it. I'm listening to you as I'm cleaning up, and I'm like, this guy is fucking good. And then you called the International Association.
Oh, sorry.
It's the International.
Almost.
Dude, I wish I was trying to find a picture of you real quick to put on the screen, but I couldn't find one, so I just turned to black. But great fucking job, man. Joe's probably listening in his car right now, saying, "Fuck, why didn't I do the show tonight?"
Oh, Spencer, well, you're very kind. I mean, I've heard this show often. I've been listening to this show for so many years right now that I think I have the spiel down. So,
dude, you do.
It's easy. I just rattle it off.
Dude, it is not easy. Listen, it's not easy to speak extemporaneously, off the cuff, for those of you who don't know what that means. And you did a fantastic job, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to keep Morty on All right.
I do appreciate that, Spencer.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so, I mean,
go ahead.
To finish the point, you know, people need to get, the first thing they need to do is they need to get help from a professional who is going to guide them in the right direction. That, you know, going to the IAHRS, and I guess, Spencer, you can tell me what the A in IAHRS stands for.
Alliance.
I'm not sure. The Alliance, the International Alliance of Hair Transplant Surgeons. To basically find a good doctor.
Okay, I'm going to give you some shit. Now, how can it? International Alliance, there's an R in there, of Hair Restoration Surgeons.
Hair Restoration Surgeons, yes. International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. Okay, getting some shit. Okay, International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. You want to go to...
Morty, I wouldn't worry about it. I have guys who've been in the organization for 20 years who still can't get it right.
And again, I think it's really important that that's going to be where you're going to start. Get a doctor from there. Do your best to get a doctor whom is, you know, geographically close to you, so it's not too much of a headache to go, because the key here is you want to see that doctor face to face. Because what you want to do is you want to start by establishing a relationship with the doctor as a person. You want to meet them. You want to shake their hands. Now that COVID isn't as big a deal, definitely go do that. Talk to them, get in their heads, let them comb through your hair with a comb and, you know, and some sort of magnification so that they can really take a good look at your scalp. Don't go for one of these Zoom evaluations. Go and see the doctor. Listen to the doctor, and more likely than not, that doctor is going to put you on medical therapy as a first step. And then only then, you know, you get on there. And you know what? Don't go with the first doctor that you meet.
When are you writing a book,
ahead
Morty?
and...
That's what I want to know. When are you going to write a book? I know that's happening. I know that's next. Morty, I'm going to give out the phone number. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm going to keep you on the air. I have to see if I can figure out. Well, you know what? I think these guys might want a little time, so I'm just going to put you on hold, and I'll come back to you, all right? Hold on.
Works. I'll be here.
All right. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello, Spencer. Hey, my name's Josh. I'm calling from Pennsylvania.
Hey, John. What's happening?
Not too much. Just I'm driving, so I hope the road noise isn't too loud.
No, it's fine.
Okay, I'll just give you a brief synopsis before I get to my question. So, I actually had 3 strip procedures done. I'm 40 now. I had 3 strips done in my late 20s and 30s with Dr. Haber in Cleveland. Didn't get nearly the result I was looking for. I had work done from the hairline to the mid-scalp with just a light dusting on the crown. I would be a normal 6.
I have a question for you. How many grafts did you have in total?
2,500 first one, I think 2,000 the second one, and maybe 1,500 the third one.
Okay, and you're saying that you had 3 procedures and you're still not happy.
Yeah, like it's for whatever reason I just didn't get good growth.
Well, what does Dr. Haber tell you?
Honestly, nothing. I mean, I've gone back since, and it's really no definitive reasons as to why.
Now,
I've asked him that, and go ahead.
Does he try to tell you that, well, the results look good and this is what you should be expecting, or does he agree that, well, maybe it's not as good as we'd like it to be?
Yes, he definitely agrees that it's not as good as what we both hoped it was. You know, after three procedures, if you were to see me, you never would have thought that I had 3 transplants done.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that.
I have very fine hair.
Right, but you know that is always something that should be presented to you. I don't know if it was before you have a procedure, and you know usually anyone who's a real expert. And just to let you know, I mean, Dr. Haber was a part of our organization for quite a long time, and for I would say unique reasons. Not that we did not remove him, but for unique reasons, we decided to separate. And part of those reasons is attitude, I would say. And, there's a level of expertise in this field. There's people who have been in the trenches for a long time who really are willing to evolve their practices and really have a level of expertise that is, kind of sets them apart from the rest of the field. And then there are those who claim they have those expertise that sets them apart, as opposed to kind of like being, good, but, within a certain, let's just say, and I'm trying to be diplomatic, they're not the outliers, let's put it that way. And I think it's really important for physicians to provide their patient from the get-go with exactly all the possible benefits as well as the pitfalls of the surgery. And when you went into that procedure, were you told that, your hair is fine and that it's possible that we may not be able to get a cosmetically acceptable result?
Honestly, Spencer, I don't remember. I know, he never promised me a full head of hair. And I know, I do remember you mentioning, hey, you do have fine hair. We may not get, the appearance that other people might get. My experience with them has been, was nothing but great. I mean, I have no complaints about the procedures. I just wish I had more.
I get it, and again, I'm not trying to get any complaints out of you, because I can tell you that for more than 25 years we've received. I don't even think any major complaints about Dr. Haber. In general, he's a doctor's doctor. He's he's good at what he does. But I was just curious. So all right, so let's move on. So you are 3 surgeries in. What's your donor look like?
So I went back maybe a year or 2 ago. I can't remember because of the pandemic. I wasn't really definite about getting a 4th transplant, and I'm definitely not now. But at that time, he mentioned he could get like 1,000 grafts out of my donor. But that's not a concern of mine right now, because I'm not going to, move forward with a 4th procedure. My concern is, and the predicament I'm in right now is I have a wide scar from after the 3rd procedure. I got a wide scar, and
sorry to hear that.
The back of my head has been untouched, so that is progressively getting worse. I'm on the Propecia, I'm on Minoxidil, I'm doing all that. In my head, like you do, and I'm just getting tired of that. So I eventually want to just shave it off and get SMP done. But what I'm concerned about, the way to go about this is, if I were to shave it off now and just get SMP done to the scar and done on the rest of my scalp, the fact that it's a wide scar, I don't feel that SMP alone will camouflage the scar enough.
Okay, well, and I understand where you want to go. First of all, so you're willing to do a full shave and do permanent SMP. How old are you?
40.
Okay. Is your hair starting to turn white?
It's a little bit, but I mean, I probably have, 5% gray.
Okay. So if you're already 5% gray and you're only 40 years old, and I turned gray early, you have to understand that if you get a permanent ink, which is really never permanent, you're going to have to stick to that color. And if you shave your head down, you're going to have a lot of gray stubble, in areas that you don't have the SMP and in areas that you are having some SMP, like including the scar areas. So if you have your scar tattooed, and that's what this is, dark, with dark little, pinpoint hair follicle mimicking tattoo spots, it's going to show through your white hair. So your stubble will eventually be gray. And even, and as you, because you're going to have to shave down so much, you're going to have maybe, depending on your skin coloring, the gray slight stubble may show, or it may look almost invisible. And then you're going to have like a line of black dots across the back of your head. So you have to be aware of that. So I think, especially a guy in your position, should consider something called trichopigmentation, which is a much more temporary procedure. It will fade in time, and this way you're not locked into it. And that could be a possibility. And if you try that, what you should do is you should have the scar done before you shave your head to see if the ink even takes well in your particular scar tissue. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So actually, I already had Trico done back in 2018. I stumbled upon SMP and Trico, and I understand that some people use it just for a thickening appearance for thin hair. I tried it to add density, and it just kind of looked odd. The flat dots against the hair just kind of looked odd. That was in 2018, so it's now completely faded. I didn't get the scar done at that time because I was wearing my hair long, and I still am wearing my hair long. I'm still able to cover the scar sufficiently. But I never thought about just getting Trico done like you just mentioned, just for the scar, just to see how it would, take to the scar.
Well, that's what I would do. And yes, I believe that the people that are using and promoting any type of SMP as underground to kind of create a less contrast from the skin and the existing hair, I think that's a mistake. I could have that done. I choose to paint my head because I know that the trichopigmentation or SMP can never compete with the look of using Derm Match or even Topic. And essentially, it just looks like you have this weird shading on your scalp, as opposed to pretend, having the look of more hair or having your hair filled in with makeup. So that's why I never chose to do that. And I know guys who have, and I honestly, I know Joe Tillman did it once. I think that Specs did it once or twice. It's okay. It's all right. But I really think you need to have a significant amount of hair for it to make a difference. And that's not the route. To me, the only way SMP works is if you have a complete shave down and for camouflaging scarring. And again, it's all, I don't want to spill my wine again, it's all temporary. Even the permanent, in quotes, ink is temporary. It will temporarily be a good color, and then it will start to fade. And then you're going to have to get that retouched. And every time it's retouched, you're going to eventually get this confluence of color. So I'm glad that you found trichopigmentation and you experimented with it. You know that it fades. And to me, that would be my advice. If this is the route you're going to go, you're not going to have any more transplants. You're concerned about your stretched scar, which I understand. If you think you can live eventually with a shaved look, with some SMP, then, if you do it correctly and know that you're going to have upkeep and make sure that you are working with a company, and then, depending on how long you live, you want to make sure that you're working, or that there are going to be other companies that are going to offer the same process. So you're not going to have to jump from trichopigmentation, then you're going to just find people who are doing permanent inks. So really do your research before you have it done again. And what I say make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, it does. And I actually had another question because, like I mentioned, it is a wide scar, so I thought about getting, a transplant, getting grafts put into the scar. I know there's shaveless FUE now. I was kind of leaning towards that because I don't really want to shake my head, for a regular FUE procedure and have that wide scar and wait, whatever it takes.
How wide would you say the scar is? Have you had it measured?
No, never have.
Okay, and what does your doctor say? The guy who created the scar.
So Dr. Haber wanted me to get the SMP first, shave it down, get the SMP first, and then get a procedure to add to the scar. If the SMP alone doesn't camouflage it enough, we could do a procedure to complement, that camouflage aspect and just add some grass.
Have you had consultations with any other physicians?
Not yet, but I'm going to.
All right.
I
would do that.
So I actually sent information, pictures and such down to, I know you mentioned before, Dan Danio in Atlanta. So, I contacted his office. I'm just waiting to hear back.
Okay, but because you're doing that because you want potential long hair FUE. So I would say contact Dan. I would say if you're going in that direction, contact John Cole. I would say you're in Ohio, right? I would contact some people in New York. Really, really get a good assessment. Don't just go to one or two doctors. And then you're going to have to meet with them. I would say that wasting grafts and putting it into the scar tissue could be, especially if you're going to eventually want to move more hair, that could be a waste of your time. Some guys will say, well, we could do beard hair into the scar. That's a possibility too. Now, I'm not recommending this, but did Dr. Haber even discuss the potential of a surgical scar reduction, where you would actually potentially have to use, and it's a pain in the ass, but you have to stretch the skin a little bit with expanders, and then once that skin is stretched, they can then cut out the expanded tissue and potentially leave you with a much finer scar?
No, didn't mention that. I think maybe he mentioned if you were to just do a whatever you call a revision or whatever the correct terminology is, there is a chance it could come back wider or as wide.
Yes, 100%. Especially if you've already had stretch back, there's certainly a chance, and the scalp could be tight. But if you're willing to go through the expansion process, which sucks, you have balloons in your head, in the back of your head, but that tissue will stretch, and it can just basically be, cut away with less tension. And there's a possibility, a good one, if it's done by the right physician, that you can then be sutured with a relatively small scar. That's always a possibility. So I guess what I am saying is get all the information. Don't jump into anything. Do not jump into getting that Tricode or SMP'd. Don't just listen to Dr. Haber. It's good that you're getting consultations, and you started to do more. You started the consultation process with other doctors. But don't just go to Dan Daniel. He's a great guy too. But go and because you can get a lot of information online now, I would go to the IHRS and see as many physicians as you can in your area. 4 or 5. Pick the guys that you think might be able to help you the most. Get their assessments. And then once you feel comfortable enough and you kind of create a short list, go visit them. It's a pain in the ass, but you've been put into a pain in the ass situation. And in the end, you don't want it to be fucked up. You're already fucked up. You're already thinking about getting rid of the hair that you've been trying to save. So if you're going to make that move, you want to do everything in your power to get it right.
No, yeah, makes sense. Appreciate the advice.
Okay, man. Well, listen, let us know what you decide to do. Please do not rush into any more surgery or any more tattooing. Take your time.
Understood.
Okay, buddy. Good luck. Take care.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
And I'm sorry for everything you've been through.
No worries.
Okay. All right, be well. Bye-bye. 888-659-3727. Let's see what the fuck Morty has to say about that call. Hey, Morty.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is really it. I mean, hair loss is something that you have to deal with for a lifetime. And just because something makes sense in your 20s doesn't mean that it's going to make sense in your 30s. And then one surgery turns into 2. And every time you get another surgery, you run the risk of another bad result, right? He talked about, I think, his first one, was good, and then he get a second one, and then suddenly he's got this wide donor scar that he's got to do.
He had 3, but he was disappointed with all his surgeries. Yeah. But physiologically, he may not have been the best candidate to begin with.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is that. The other big part of it has to do with your attitude and your expectations. You have to understand that you're not going to get back to the way you were when you were 18, or even the way that you were when you were 25. What you're going to get is going to be something that hopefully is better than what you have, and as long as you are willing to look at it that way, then you're going to be better off than if you're trying to kind of, recapture your youth or something like that.
But do you really think that's, and I guess this is a rhetorical question, but I mean, that's not the way the shit's being sold, especially today. Listen, it's always been a mess. The industry has always been full of liars. Complete bullshit.
Yeah, I know.
Some of the guys, the Grand Poobahs, the guys that even founded the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgeons, the guys that have grandfathered in, these were some of the guys who were doing some of the worst damage I've ever seen. The reason I do what I do today, especially in the transplant field, is because when I was doing my research, I saw I really did my due diligence, and I was able to see the horror stories in person. Speak to these doctors, go to their offices and see what they were doing. I remember one guy who is revered in this industry, and he's okay, he's all right. But I mean, initially when I walked into his office, I saw a patient with like 500 nails in his head, essentially dilators. Back then, they thought they needed to separate, keep the recipient sites open with these nail-like things. They were called dilators, to dilate the recipient area. I mean, no one was doing it at the time. This is really old school, but this guy was. And now he's like revered. They claim that he's one of the pioneers of FUE, and I remember back in the day, the guy wouldn't even talk about FUE. But this is the industry, man. Not Orange Trike. I'm not going to mention this guy's name, but it just he became well respected, and it's amazing to me because all these guys were fucking used car salesmen. A handful weren't, like 10 or 11 guys who I was able to put into the Ball of Truth originally, and I honestly naively believed that we would be able to build an organization that had possibly hundreds of really caring, qualified, and ethical physicians. And I've received over 2,000 some odd, like 2,400 applications in 20 years. We still only have 60 doctors. And I would love to take their fucking checks. And I think that just speaks to how fucked up the industry is, Morty. So, I'm saying this, I'm going on a rant because, there's so much sales involved, and people are not being provided with honest information. Even the guys who are really well respected, they're not always completely honest because, they have their kids' tuition to pay for, their Mercedes-Benz payment to pay for. They're worried about their fucking mortgages like everyone else in this world. And they're like, well, maybe I can make this guy happy for 3 years. And by then, I'll have enough money in the bank not to worry about it or to hire an attorney to get this pain in the ass off my back.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, I was lucky to have actually attended FU Europe, and I've overheard a lot of really interesting conversations. And one of the things that is very interesting is that doctors will advise, but they won't walk away from a surgery even if it's ill-advised. They will go ahead and say something like, I really think you should get on medical therapy. But if the patient refuses, the doctor said, well, look, I advised them. I told them. They still want to go through the surgery. I'll do it because, hey, like you said, the doctor make their money by putting people in that surgical chair, or that's where they make the lion's share of their money. So, if as a patient, you have to remember that when you go in to see a doctor. If you've got a doctor who's itchy on the trigger finger, like, oh yeah, we could bring you in and we could have you, we could have you on the schedule by next week. Beware, Make sure that you're dealing with somebody who is going to basically. He's not going to try to get you in as quickly as possible and get you cut up. I mean, you told your story of when you went in with, I think it was at Orange Trike, who basically wanted to put mini plugs in your head.
They weren't mini guys. They were 4mm plugs. He told me to try a few. But, with that said, Marty, there are guys that you'll see on the message forums, oh, this so-and-so's booked out for a year straight. Nobody is booked out. They maybe possibly have a lot of bookings, a few months out, but I have never known anyone ever who was put on a waiting list that didn't get a call about a cancellation within a month or two. So when people are making decisions and saying, oh, well, so-and-so is booked out for a year, so I'm going to go someplace else. If you want to go with a specific doctor, stick to that doctor. You'll get in sooner rather than later. And you're right about people trying to get you in the chair quickly. But in the end, it's all about, and you're going to find this out now that you're involved in the industry. You're going to find this out, dude. You may not be aware of it now. You're still green behind the ears. You learned a lot quickly from this program and from getting more involved. But these guys want their schedules filled, period. And when I got into this field originally, when I started the IHS, initially, these guys were coming to me talking about leads and coming to me saying, why don't I do online consultations? And I had to re-educate them. And sometimes biannually or every 3 or 4 years. Like, I don't sell surgeries, dude. You sell surgeries. I provide the information that consumers need to make better informed decisions. And if you're lucky enough to be a part of what we do, then leverage that so you can sell surgeries. I'm not selling shit. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell these guys not to have surgery. But you're going to find out soon about filling schedules, Morty, if you're calling patients and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been blessed in that I haven't really done too much of that. Most of them has been calls from Nick basically saying, hey, do me a favor, talk to so and so.
Good.
And I kind of like that role because I'm dealing with. But
why do you think Nick calls you? And I don't think you're naive about this. Why do you think Nick wants you to talk to so and so? Nick wants you to talk to so-and-so because you had a really great experience. Listen, you have great results. You should speak. You should talk up Dr. Cole because he changed your life. I would too.
Yeah.
But if you really look at the reality through the reality lens, that's why anybody would want you to work with them or speak to a patient because your your life-changing story will help to convince people that, hey, I'm making a good decision by going to Dr. Cole. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that because I agree. I think that people should have access to you if they're considering Dr. Cole. But that is the reality. That is why Nick is picking up the phone to have you speak to patients. You got to understand that.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a really great experience, but I also want to make sure that people understand that my experience was a great experience. Not just because I picked a good doctor, because I got extremely lucky. Let's face it. All right?
Well, it's all the above. It's because you picked a good doctor. I'm not going to you can't take that out of the equation. But you did get lucky, too.
I'm not. I guess what I'm trying to say, though, and this is an important detail, is that, it's still a roll of the dice. Okay? Even if you do all your research, even if you find the best doctor that you can, even if all the stars are aligned, shit can still happen. I mean, you did a post recently with this guy who died. It was a piece about somebody who died getting a hair transplant. Right. And I think that this can happen even to the best of doctors.
Yeah.
You just go ahead and you accidentally hit a nerve, or your anesthetic gets into the bloodstream and it stops the heart. This can happen.
Look, a couple of years ago, doctor came up. He's in the Chicago area, came up to me and goes, did you hear what happened? And I'm like, I did. And, right away, the doctor's defending himself. Well, I wasn't informed about this heart condition or whatever it is. I'm thinking, how did you not do the proper EKG and stuff like that? I mean, I'm not saying he didn't, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, you're not informed. Like, you have to know. You're operating on somebody. You're putting somebody's, every time you're opening someone's head, or even with punctate wounds, putting them under any type of anesthesia, injecting lidocaine, giving them a fucking Valium, if they're not used to taking benzos, you're putting them at risk. Absolutely. All cylinders have to be working properly. And if you're not 100% confident that they are, then you shouldn't be performing surgery on this person.
And that is true. But as you and I know, there's a lot of doctors, and we're not just talking about this field. We're talking about just in general, doctors who come in, maybe they didn't get enough sleep the night before, maybe they were out too late. They still have patients they need to see. et cetera, et cetera. A lot of doctors will basically, sit on their laurels after leaving medical school, and they won't get all those,
Dude, I recently had a fucking thing where I had I was, and it was nothing major, but misdiagnosed for something, by someone who claimed that, that they are, they're the best diagnostician and this and that. And of course I didn't feel good about it. I knew, but I'm just like, it doesn't matter what the reputation is. It's just, there's just so much bullshit. And we're talking about a completely different field of medicine. So much bullshit that consumers know nothing about. And, I've said this for years, listen, just because someone's wearing a white coat, it does not make them less of a flawed human being than other people.
These doctors are people just like you and me, and they can make mistakes just like we do. Except the consequences of their mistakes can be far more disastrous than anything you can make, like we spill a little wine on your console.
Listen, I want to get some new equipment anyway. All right, Morty, I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to take a call. All right.
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, Spencer. My name's Stuart. I'm calling from Leicester in the UK.
Hey, Stuart. How are you, man? Welcome.
Good, man. I'm good. Yeah, it's really enjoying the show. Amazing what you're doing, for the people around the world. Yeah, I'm a big fan, Spencer.
Oh, that's nice to hear. It makes me want to continue doing what I'm doing, man. So thank you.
Well, you're getting over to the UK, and I know a few people who listen to this show here. So yeah,
that's
you're
great.
Very popular. You're getting big.
Well, that's what she said. But I'm just kidding. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring a bit of positivity. There's been some negative talk, and the last call obviously is quite positive. So I just wanted to continue some positivity tonight, really. That's why I was calling in.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I obviously I've followed you guys. I do obviously follow Specs here in the UK. He's massive.
He's great.
He's everywhere. So obviously I'm sort of a big fan of his. And when he's on your show, I like to listen in, and specifically as well when Specs is on. But obviously I've followed everything about the hair business for like sort of 30 years. I've just turned 50, and
happy birthday.
Well, it was last November, so I'm coming around to the 51st soon.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's 50, and I decided.
You're a young man.
I got a last-minute appointment with Dr. Baysa in Turkey.
Okay.
She's one of the, obviously, on the eight gentlemen, top 25 surgeons. So, obviously, I did a lot of research, especially on the stuff that Specs were doing. And she came up as, obviously, Turkey, which was, obviously, being in Europe, Turkey is the place where everyone seems to be going, right? And,
crazy.
Obviously, I wanted to make sure I had the right surgeon, and she's the only one, I believe, on that top 25 surgeons around the world that's based in Turkey. So, I got in touch. We did a consultation. She was very informative, really, really good. And unfortunately, because of COVID, Turkey became a red list country for travel from the UK, so I couldn't travel there.
Wow.
I just couldn't get there.
I heard that, by the way.
And it was terrible. And I ended up losing my place and all the rest of it. And then suddenly, last December 21st, just before Christmas, I got this appointment just come out of the blue, because obviously I was in communication and trying to keep in touch and keep the door open even though things had gone wrong. And she was looking for cancellations, and I got an appointment on the 21st, so I went over, just before Christmas, and I was back on the 23rd. So it was a quick trip, but it was a trip of a lifetime for me.
Oh, so let's talk about it.
Well.
So, obviously you had to get a good surgical experience, but now it's been, what? It's been a year, almost.
Well, no, it's coming up to, I think it's 8, maybe 9 months now post.
9 months, yeah.
And I have 3650 grafts, so temples, front of my hairline, a lot on my crown. I've made some amazing strides. It's been a good journey. I'm not using Minoxidil. I'm not using Findestride. I'm doing it totally natural.
Well, let me ask you this. So you had it when you were about 49 years old. How far had your hair loss progressed?
My hair loss was maybe a 2 to 3 on the Norwood.
Okay, so I mean, for someone your age, that was you really didn't have aggressive hair loss.
No, it wasn't massively bad. I mean, on the crown, I had a strategic comb over, as you guys all probably know, the tricks of the trade, and it worked.
Dude, you're looking at. I'm like the Harry Houdini of the comb over.
Yeah, and obviously it worked so well for me for so long, and then I just got this opportunity, obviously following Bisa and looking at her work, and obviously she was, we agreed a good price. I mean, compared to what I was quoted on Harley Street, and they didn't even want to do my hair transplant. I went to a couple of places in the UK prior to seeing Dr. Bisa, and one wanted to do SMPs on me, which I didn't want to go down that route. And then I went to Harley Street, and she didn't think my donor area was that good. So, yeah, speaking to Bisa, she gave me a completely different outlook, and it wasn't a snake salesman treatment. I came away there, and I'm posting on the hair loss forums on Facebook. I think Joe's a member of the same forum as me, and I've posted my story on there, and you can see the progress I've made. It's been fantastic.
Well, listen, man, it's so great to hear good stories, and I usually, and again, I'm not a physician, I'm never really a fan of having a hair transplant without any medical therapy. But in your particular situation, being that you weren't really that progressed at the age of 49, there's probably a reasonable chance that unless something really changes, unless you're genetically predisposed for that switch to flip at a later age, in your 50s, you may be able to maintain this hair transplant and your current hair for 5-10 years at least before you begin to progress, if you're not progressing quickly. So, I mean, I guess it's a choice that is more reasonable for a guy your age than for, say, someone who gets a hair transplant at 35.
Yeah. I mean, I was literally on the flight back, coming back from Stansted from Istanbul, and obviously that plane was full of hair transplants, a few face jobs, a few sort of teeth work, etc. But
let me tell you something. I good teeth are great, but the level of veneer work that's being done in Turkey, and the shade of white that is coming out of that country, it's fucking insane.
I agree.
I thought it was bad here in LA, and it's not that bad. I mean, it's like they're like fucking huge. They're chiclets, and they are paper white. And you see
I had these two guys from London back on the filling in their PCR tests and all the rest of it, and they literally had Simon Cowell teeth, and these guys were in their 60s, 70s, worn, old sort of guys, and it looks so bizarre. It looks really, really
You got to
bizarre.
go with the right shading. You got to go with listen, I've had work done over the years. I have, whitish, good, strong white teeth. I feel very fortunate about a lot of the decisions that I've made. But if you were to compare, you can compare normal, like good veneers or crowns with what is coming out of Turkey. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not even like Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell's all right. The shit that I see is literally like a sheet of paper, and they're all the same shape and size. It's wild.
The plane was literally full. I mean, the transplants were the worrying thing to see. Some of you could see some were not good. I went through I had to go through, obviously, all the scabs come off after about sort of 9-10 days, and then you go through the ugly duckling phase. And I really did think things weren't looking good. But I had a call with Dr. Bisa. She rang me about a week ago. We had a video call, and she's so happy with the progress. And I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, because obviously you're a man very in the know. I mean, if I'm sort of post 9 months, how much growth have I got left now?
It's possible that you could, most of the hair should be broken through the skin by now. You may have a little bit more that comes through in the next couple of months. But in general, most of the skin is broken through. Most of the hair is broken through. I mean, it could be up to 12 months before it all breaks through. But in general, what you see growing is what you see growing. But that hair is going to mature. And you're going to start to see the hairs become, they're what is the word I'm looking for? Not density. Basically, the size of the shaft is going to increase. Diameter of the hair shaft is going to increase. And it's going to start to look more and more like your native hair. So in some cases, it comes out a little fuzzier, it comes out a little curlier, it comes out a little wavier, maybe a little bit more wiry. But that will eventually start to, in most cases, calm down. And as the growth cycle continues, the hair shaft diameter is going to get bigger. You're going to look like you have more coverage. And you could still have some hair that hasn't broken through, break through. It really depends. But
it does seem around the crown area, it seems a lot thinner. I mean, at the front, it's really sort of filled in really well, and sort of in the middle. But the crown's still quite thin. But I've been told the crown's the last place to sort of take.
Well, it's interesting that, that is kind of the mantra, that the crown is the last place to show growth. But it's really because, the crown is like a black hole. It's really difficult to really see or appreciate the growth as quickly as you can in the front. So you will start to see more hair, and it will, as the hair starts to mature, you will start to see the crown kind of getting more shaded and filling in. But you have time for sure. I mean, if after 12 months you don't see real progress in the crown, then maybe there's an issue. But I don't think that's going to happen.
What would you say? I mean, obviously, from the point of Findestride and Propecia, I had really bad side effects, hence why I stopped taking it. I did take it prior to having the surgery, and I did use Minoxidil for quite a while after surgery. I gave it a bit of time and then used it, but I was getting slight sides. I don't know if it's just paranoia now, but I'm sort of too paranoid to use any of these medicines.
Well, I mean, once you experience any side effects, were you getting side effects from Minoxidil as well?
Yeah, I was getting. Whether it was just in the head, but I felt like I was getting sides from that too. So
what kind of sides?
Sort of fogginess and nervous and anxiety and a lot of other sort of stuff, and I didn't like it. So and to be fair, I'm back to my chilled self now. So I'm quite happy.
Well, you know what? I would say there's no reason to push the envelope now. If you don't see that your hair loss is progressing, if you think you're pretty stable, then you can wait and wait for the transplant to grow in. But just know that hair loss is progressive. In most cases, it will get worse. I have known people who have, reached their 50s and it kind of just plateaus for years.
Yeah, which is what mine was doing, to be fair. It was slightly getting a little bit worse, but it was very slow.
Yeah, so I would say just wait. You found a good surgeon. As a matter of fact, I think Dr. Bisher is still an associate member. I need to invite her. I haven't done this yet to be a full member of the IHRS because she's definitely proven herself over the last few years. Here's the thing. I usually bring people on as an associate, especially if they are kind of from a different part of the world where I'm unable to really see the amount of work that I want to see, even though she's got a lot of time on tissue. But I can tell you that since she's been part of the IHRS, she's been getting great results. Say that again?
It's like one-on-one treatment throughout the day. She only sees one patient per day.
Yeah.
I mean, the treatment, the nurses, the aftercare, the actual clinic, it is amazing.
She's a real doctor. That's hard to find in Turkey, to be honest with you.
She's a doctor, and she's pretty easy on the eye as well, Spencer.
Yeah, she's a good-looking lady, for sure. But yeah, man. I mean, I think that you made a good choice. I think you're going to be, you are now still in the waiting stage. After 12 months, you can have a better idea of what your end result is going to be.
Okay, cool.
All right, brother. Listen,
yeah,
man.
well, I just wanted to ring in and say thank you so much, Spencer, for what you do for us guys around the world. And I can see the care and the love and, you know, all the rest of it you throw into it. You throw your heart and soul into this, and it's fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that a lot. You know, most people are giving me shit, so I got a lot of trolls out there. So I appreciate you, man.
No, what you do, you know, what Joe does, what Specs does here in the UK. I mean, Specs' article, you know, the Aped Gentleman article. I mean, for anyone who hasn't read it, read it. You need to. What you need to do in this industry is you can't just run in and get treatments. You need to research, and it's taken me a long time to get to this point, and I'm finally made the right decision. And yeah, no regrets.
I'm really happy for you. And you know, since you brought up the article, and since the last caller, the caller before, we're talking about Bob Haber. One of the reasons why I'm not working with Bob Haber at this point is, you know, when that article came out, and I thought it was funny, he called me up, pissed off that he wasn't on in the article, thinking that I wrote it. And I'm like, you might want to look at the byline, dude, because there's a guy named Spencer Stevenson who just so happens to only want to endorse IAHRS members. And I'm sorry that you weren't one of the doctors that he was willing to put on the list. These fucking guys are all the same, man. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. All right, brother. Listen, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you had a good experience. Again, she's a real surgeon.
Yeah, she needs to be appreciated more in this industry because she is the real deal. I'm telling you, she really is.
We'll make that happen. I appreciate the call, man, and the kind words.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks a lot, Spencer.
Okay.
Thanks for taking me on tonight.
You got it, man. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
And we're going to hear from Morty.
Great call. You know, it's always nice to hear from people around the world, especially in the UK. For those people who haven't seen it, you should watch Joe Tillman's video on Dr. Beecher so you can see what the caller was talking about. She is definitely easy on the eyes, and you want to have a surgeon who is going to basically be yours exclusively for the length of your surgery. You don't want somebody who's going to divide their attention between multiple people, and you certainly want to make sure that you don't just have a bunch of techs.
I'm going to say something, man, and this is only one broadcast, so this may not carry over to other broadcasts, but you're a fucking natural. Don't let this get your head too big. Jesus Christ, you flew right, you just rolled right into that Joe Tillman plug. That was great.
I saw the video, so, you know, it's kind of easy.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Yeah.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. What were you going to say?
Yeah, and Joe's got a lot of really good videos out there on a bunch of doctors that are on his short list. And, you know, you guys have to remember that the IAHRS is not a short list. The IAHRS is a list of doctors that Spencer and his alliance have vetted. But they're not a short list. They're not like Spencer. They're not like Specs' list, and they're not like Joe's list.
It's a hair transplant society of physicians who are like-minded, who I essentially chose by hand to be a part of an alliance of physicians who are willing to do the right thing. That's how it started. You know, when I started it, and I still have a lot of enemies, but people were fucking up in arms, like, how dare you? And then they were calling it just some sort of a marketing scheme. I'm like, if you want to call it a marketing scheme, that's fine. But, you know, if it was a marketing scheme, at least we're marketing good fucking real hair transplant surgeons, as opposed to what the fuck you're marketing and what the ISHRS is marketing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I'm, like I said, I for one...
Don't get me started.
You know, your advice to basically check on multiple doctors is the way to go, and you know that the IAHRS is a place to find those multiple doctors. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that is it possible to get good surgery from a doctor who's not on your list? Because there have been doctors who've been on your list and who are no longer on your list, and they're probably still pretty good doctors.
You just fucked up.
But
I'm just kidding.
But I wouldn't chance it. I seriously wouldn't chance it. You want to cut all the risks out in this. You do not want to introduce new risks because, hey, you know, this person is a few dollars cheaper or whatever, you know.
Well,
you want to check all the check boxes.
Well, I appreciate that. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. More, do you have some time to hold on for a little bit longer?
You got it. I'm here as long as you need me, Spencer.
All right, brother. Hold on. Oh, Morty, call back. I just hung up on you. Sorry. Shit. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Alex from San Diego. How are you, Spencer?
Alex, how are you, man? What's going on?
Nothing much. Just decided to call in. I called like about a year ago about like my situation, and you guys gave me some advice, but I still haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Okay, well, what's your situation? What advice did we give you?
Yeah, just 49 years old, still losing a little ground. I've been on finasteride for about 17 years, and it's like slowly kind of going. So nothing crazy, but it just seems like it's just seems like it's slipping away. I'm like, whoa. So
well, that's how it works.
I think
Unfortunately,
you guys, I already increased the dose, and it's still like it seems like it hasn't really. I did it by cutting it by a third, and I did it for about a year, and it just seems to like still be the same. And I don't know if that may.
Now, when you say still the same, you're still losing ground, or it's held.
You know.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. When you say still the same, is it holding? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's like still losing ground.
Okay. So what doses?
And it's like,
what doses are you on right now?
I'm still doing the 1/3, and it's been like a year now.
Are you calling from like a VoIP line or something?
I still have. Yeah, it's a Google phone right now.
Oh man!
But yeah, sorry, it's a little ghetto.
It's fucked up. I can't. You keep.
Is it really bad right now, or did it?
This second, it's okay, but we.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So just in case I have to hang up on you, you know why. But
yeah,
what I would do is I would talk to another physician. Consider even raising your dose a little bit more. Right now, you're taking, I'm assuming, 1/3 of a Proscar.
Yeah, 1/3 of the Proscar daily.
Yeah,
and it just seems like it's not doing its trick, you know.
Yeah.
And I still got a lot of hair to play with, but it's slipping away, and I'm just like, this might be it, you know.
Well, there's two things you can do.
I don't know if I should just.
Two things you can do. First of all, talk to your doctor about even raising the dosage even more, maybe taking a half, 2.5 milligrams.
Right.
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of guys are now prescribing oral minoxidil all over the world, and they seem to be getting some really significant results. Talk to your doctor about that. Also, you just want to make sure you have a full workup anytime you increase your medication, or especially if you add something like minoxidil, oral minoxidil, into the mix.
Yeah.
I'm not a physician. I can't advise you on what to do, but I can tell you that there are a lot of people who are like, this is something that was being prescribed decades ago. I mean, I almost took it myself, but it was being prescribed at a higher dosage. As soon as I found a doctor who was willing to compound it, I started to use it topically, so I kind of stuck with that. But over the years, there have been many people who have been prescribing it to women with some pretty fantastic results, and to guys. But it just kind of fell out of favor, I would say around 2002, 2003. And they were prescribing it less. Now it's kind of back in the patient's or the physician's vernacular, so to speak, and they're prescribing it more. Dude, your phone sucks, man. We're having the worst connection. Go ahead.
Oh God, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me see. Can you hear? What about now? Better?
Yeah, just speak, and I'll see if I can communicate with you. Go ahead.
Okay, better now.
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, no, the finasteride just worked so damn good for like years. It locked everything in so hard.
Well, you know what? It does work well, and I do think that you can actually probably maintain some of those results. Talk to your doctor about this, but by raising your dosage, as long as you're not having any adverse effects, and because you still have so much hair in your head, and you're in your late 40s, you said, right?
Yeah, 49.
Yeah, I mean, oral minoxidil may be something that you would consider, especially if you're in good health.
Yeah. No, everything seems to be going good.
Yeah, so you can talk to your doctor about that as well. And if your doctor doesn't have, if your doctor's not well versed on the right dosages or hasn't really prescribed a lot of it, you can contact one of the members of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, IAHRS.org, and tell them that you just want to have a medical consultation for therapy. They may charge you, they may not. But at the very least, you'll be able to find a prescribing physician and someone who could really explain all the pros and cons and the possible benefits versus the possible adverse events.
Right. I did contact one of the members you have for a prescription. I think Shapiro Medical Group for like finasteride.
Okay.
But they did prescribe me the dutasteride once a week.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of waiting. I'm like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna call a show before I.
Well, okay. So you just threw something in the mix. Now, did you speak to a doctor or was it Matt Zupan?
No, like just a receptionist or something like that.
I gotta talk.
But I haven't done anything yet.
I have to talk to Shapiro Medical about that because you need to speak with the physician. I know that they have to sign off on the prescription, but
right.
Yeah, I would say hold off on it. Talk to a doctor.
Right.
Have a consultation with a physician at Shapiro Medical if you want to continue on going that route. But I'm not a fan of consultants suggesting or providing, not that they could provide the prescription, but basically doing a medical consultation over the phone or through Zoom or through Skype. Not a fan. So find a doctor who you can really sit down with, even if it's online. Talk about your options. You don't have to jump on dutasteride. The combination of finasteride and minoxidil may just do the trick for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah, no, that's it. I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on it and see where I should go from here. So,
okay. Well, good luck.
I know you guys aren't doctors, but
good luck, my man.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Good luck. Bye-bye. Let us know what you do.
Yeah, no, I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll keep you guys updated.
Perfect. Thanks. 888-659-3727. Have a few more minutes before I'm going to end the broadcast. Let's see what Morty has to say about this guy. Hey, Morty.
Hey. So this is an interesting call because you've got somebody who...
Now you're breaking up. What's going on? Is it my line?
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. That's good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what I was saying was that this is an interesting case because you have a guy who was very successful on finasteride for a while, and now he's seeing his he's seeing his effectivity wane. I hadn't noticed. Did you ask whether he was on brand or not?
He said that he was on ProScar.
Okay, so he's on brand. Okay, so that'd be the first question. The next question could be,
Thank you,
my
Morty.
My advice would be to go with to try to go with the oral minoxidil. I'm on it, and I'm borderline hypertensive. So for me, it was kind of a natural thing. The doctor wanted me on ACE inhibitors, and I was just like, you know what? Let me just try this oral minoxidil and see if I can't get my blood pressure under control with that. But yeah, I think it's really important that if you're going to get a prescription, that you get it from a doctor. It is kind of strange. There's a lot of these prescription services out there nowadays that are giving prescriptions for things like ED or depression or hair loss online, and it always struck me as a little bit odd.
Just to tell you how that works, you are getting a prescription through a doctor. These companies essentially work with other companies that do specific telemedicine consultations. So say a company like Keep Your Hims, they will either work with their own or they probably, I'm not 100% sure. Well, I am sure, but I can't say certain things. But they can work with a third-party contractor that essentially does solely online consultations with physicians, MDs or DOs. So you are being prescribed and you are answering questions and you are speaking with or in contact with a physician. However, it was kind of like getting your pot license here in Los Angeles before it was legal. All you had to do is, essentially, the doctor's office was connected to the dispensary. You go in there, you're like, yeah, my back hurts. Okay, here's a prescription for your fucking pot. And you go next door and you buy whatever you want.
Yeah. And I remember in the aughts, there were a lot of these these pain clinics in South Florida were doing the same thing.
Oh, 100%, man. That's even worse. I mean, at least with pot, it's like, okay, big deal. Now, I will say, as someone who enjoys a little marijuana once in a while, I will say it's a different animal now. You go to a dispensary, and now it's, anyone can walk in and just give them a driver's license. It's completely legal. The shit that they are selling is so much stronger than when I was a kid. I did an edible a couple of years ago. I'm like, I told common law to call an ambulance. I mean, I was fucking stoned.
Oh my God! Now I tell you something. I really don't do too much in the way of weed. My only real big weed story I have was when I was like 16, and I went up to the Catskills, and you know what the Catskills are. And I went up there with my dad.
I got a great story too. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went up there with my dad, and I'm hanging out with the rabbi's son, and this kid is like, he's all over the place, and the minute we meet, we become fast friends, and he's like, you got to try this weed, and I'm like, I'm half Colombian, so for me, drugs are all for export. They're not for they're not for personal use.
Now, were you at the Concord or Grossingers or Kutcher's?
It was the Concord, actually.
The Concord. Right.
So anyway, I'm up there, and this kid's got weed, and he's all in my face about weed. Now I drink, so I was drinking at 16, 17, and so we got a half-gallon of orange juice and a bottle of vodka, and we're mixing screwdrivers, and we're just all kind of hanging around. And I had a few in me at this point, and I was feeling a little bit dizzy, and so he's like, this guy's in my face. It was me, him, and these few girls are all hanging around, and he's like, dude, you got to try some. Come on, and he's like, all right. I'm like, all right, stop bugging me. So I take a toke, and immediately my alcohol buzz is gone. Like suddenly I'm like the dizziness is gone. I'm like, this is crazy, because it can actually do that. I didn't even know that. So I get up because I'm sitting down. I get up, go to the bathroom, and I'm in the bathroom, and then there's this funny window in the bathroom, and there's this dude in this window in the bathroom who is looking straight at me. And when his head moves, my head moves. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's full of the old Harville Marx, man.
And it took me a second to realize I was looking in a mirror. That's how fucked up
That's hilarious. Well, I have a real short Concord story. So when I was a child, my mother wanted me to be a child actor. And I went I went on my first audition, and I got the gig, and I got this commercial with a guy by the name of Jack Eagle. I don't know if you remember, but this guy was the Xerox monk. Remember that guy?
Okay.
Remember the Xerox commercials with the monk back in the 70s?
I have to go and check it out now.
Well, anyway, he was also a comedian and a well-known actor. So I didn't like doing it. I got the gig. My mother made me go on some other auditions, and I was just like, I just wanted to play baseball. So in retrospect, I was a fucking idiot because maybe I could have had a different life. But with all that said,
well, you're on TV once a week.
That's true. That's true. So I'm about 14 years old. I'm about 13 years old, and my parents take us to the Concord. One of two vacations ever in my entire life as a child. Mm-hmm. And so I had an older brother, let him rest in peace. And my brother used to like to smoke a lot. He used to smoke a lot of weed when he was a kid. And I never did that shit. I was an athlete, or I thought I was at least, and it just wasn't for me. So anyway, we're up there, and my parents were at the show, and I didn't know who was at the show. It was like Joan Rivers, and there's somebody else, whatever it is. My brother gets me really stoned in the room. My mother comes running into the room and says, "You're not going to believe this, but Jack Eagle just did the fronted for Joan Rivers, and he wants to see you."
No!
I'm a child. I've never been stoned before. I was so fucking high, and it was probably one of the most frightening, besides 9/11, experiences. And this guy had to know that I was stoned. And when I was that age, I looked like a kid. I looked like I was like 10. So that's my Stone Concord story for you.
Yeah, it seems like that's kind of a story that I've heard many times from people like ourselves.
Dude, nothing worse than young Jews in the 70s smoking pot and skiing at the Concord.
Running into trees and just being general idiots.
Yeah.
No, it was hilarious because it didn't really matter how old you were. You could still manage to get your hands on all kinds of shit that you probably didn't need to get your hands on. So.
But the thing is, it's so much different today. So now, I mean, what these kids are smoking, I could see why they're going off the fucking rails. By the way, it's a totally different drug. But anyway, guys, you know what? I'm not going to take any more calls. It's 4:56. I'm going to call it a night. You know, I got to tell you, Morty, this was a real pleasure. I'm glad that you hung out for the show. I know that people give you shit in the chat room, which you don't deserve.
I mean, today is actually quite tame. I was actually, answering questions there, and I was enjoying myself. So I hope the people in the chat room certainly did, and I enjoyed our callers.
Well, listen, it was great, and I don't know. I'm going to have to discuss things with Joe. I mean, I think that you're, maybe somebody we should, at the very least, you could be my Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
Every time Joe decides to take a birthday weekend, which, by the way, is a little girly. I'm just saying.
Did you go have a facial?
Yeah. What grown man takes a fucking birthday weekend?
Goodness gracious, you're going to be poking fun at him next week. I know that.
I mean, it's my birthday. I don't want a fucking birthday party or a birthday weekend. I don't give a shit. Oh, great. I made it another year. That's it. Now I got to go work and do something for somebody else. That's what men do.
That's true enough. Absolutely, sir.
All right, brother. Listen.
Well,
go ahead.
Don't forget to let people know in the description. All of the websites are there, so look them up. And again, go to the IHRS.org. Go to Joe Tillman's Hair Transplant Mentor website, and be here next week.
Dude, I'm telling you, you fucking just crushed it. I mean, I don't want to. I'm not going to swallow your head because this may never happen again. But for your first time doing this, you couldn't have done better. So I want to thank you.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure, Spencer. You take care. You have a good night.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. Take care. All right, guys, you heard what he said. All the information is in the description of Joe's page. Guys who are listening to this, which we just uploaded something to Spotify and iTunes and to iHeartRadio and all the other podcast platforms, which I don't do. I normally don't do it. There's a lot of reasons why I don't do it. Because the more we get out there, the more work I have to continue to do. And I was supposed to be retired. But like that caller from the UK said, when I get calls like that, I realize just how important it is to just keep doing what I'm doing. So I think we're going to be here for a while. But guys who are listening to this on a podcast, go to Joe Tillman's page. It's youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. Subscribe to the broadcast. Subscribe to his channel. Come in here and like all these shows. Just press the like button. And for however many people are watching on his page right now, just like the goddamn show. I see 30 likes on his page. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Do you know how much work Joe puts into his fucking channel? Come on. All right, guys, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.